all Georgia public universities. I saw Penn just did it, Johns Hopkins, University of Miami. The list goes on and on. Almost every week, there's another university reinstating SAT and ACT scores for admissions. So does that debunk the myth that's out there from the media and your college counselors and your high school teachers that say the SAT and the ACT are no longer important? Does everyone understand why you got to take these exams, not only for college admissions, but for scholarships and to get higher acceptance rates at test optional universities? Is that clear to everyone? Type a yes in the chat if so. All right. I'm seeing lots of yeses come through. So hopefully that, it's a lot of parents and students are confused about that. So hopefully that clarifies it for you guys. So now let's talk a little bit about the digital SAT, since it came out less than a year ago in March of 2024. There are 3 common myths about the digital SAT that we need to dispel. So common myths about the new digital SAT. Myth number 1 that a lot of parents think my child will be able to take the digital SAT at home. That would be nice, right? If you could take it at home, you could have ChatGPT open in the background, get all the questions correct. No, you still have to take it at a testing center with a proctor, and the application doesn't allow anything else open automatically. And so, yes, it is still an official standardized test. It's not an at-home test just because it's digital. Myth number 2, some parents think the digital SAT will have the same content as the paper-based SAT. That is totally false. So the new digital SAT has a new format, has new question types, has new content. So if you're using old paper-based SAT books, courses, or any other curriculum, it's not going to be relevant, okay? Myth number 3, my child struggles with online tests, so the digital SAT will be hard. Type a yes in the chat if you think this is true for your child. Your child struggles with online tests, so the digital SAT will be hard for them. Anyone believe that to be true? All right, I see some yeses coming through in the chat. So here's a whole table on why the new digital SAT is actually an easier version than the old paper-based SAT. First, let's look at the total testing time. The old paper-based SAT used to be 3 hours long. The new digital SAT is just 2 hours and 14 minutes long. So it's the first SAT that's just around 2 hours long. So it's a lot shorter of an exam. The number of questions, the old paper-based SAT had 154 questions. The new digital SAT has just 98 questions. It's the first standardized test for college admissions that's under 100 questions. So that's really nice. It's a much shorter exam. Time per question. The old paper-based SAT, you only had about 1 minute and 10 seconds on average per question. On the new digital SAT, you have about 1 minute and 22 seconds on average per question. So you have more time per question. By the way, the ACT only gives you 49 seconds per question. So if you struggle with testing time, the new digital SAT is definitely going to be in your favor. For the math section, the old paper-based SAT included a no calculator SAT math section. For the new digital SAT, there are calculators allowed on all SAT math sections. In fact, they actually give you a really nice digital Desmos calculator in the application. For the writing section of the old paper-based SAT, there used to be separate SAT writing sections, even an essay section. That's the version that I took. The new digital SAT, the SAT writing and grammar problems are actually integrated with the reading section. So it's just one section that includes both reading and writing. For the reading section, how many parents remember on their SAT long 500 to 750 word passages with multiple questions per passage? They had difficult vocabulary. They even had analogies in some versions of the old SAT. How many parents remember that? Type a yes in the chat if so. What's really nice about the new digital SAT is they removed obscure vocabulary. The SAT analogies are totally gone, and they don't have long passages anymore. They're just short 50 to 150 word passages with just one question per passage. So it's a lot friendlier of an exam for those of you who struggle with SAT or standardized test reading. All right. And so does everyone see why the new digital SAT is easier than the old paper-based SAT? Type a yes in the chat if so. Does that mean the digital SAT is easy? Well, the digital SAT is easier than previous SATs, but it's not easy, okay? It's definitely not easy. And anyone who's taken the digital SAT will tell you that. Why? Because it's an adaptive test.